Hey guys, Mr. Seckler here. So I'm going to give you guys a tutorial on lesson 1.3, and I want to go over some concerns that I have from what I've seen on students' lessons. I want to go over a couple examples, and then I'm going to showcase some things that I think have been done really, really well. And then I'm going to go into PowerPoint and I'm going to do a live demonstration. So let's get started. So firstly, some concerns I have. So going through your lessons, something that I've noticed is some people have weird answers for some of their questions. So for example, over here in one student's lesson, you can see that they're checking off the steps as they do it, but when you kind of start looking closer, you see over here for step 8, they've completed all these steps. Now looking at step number 9 over here, it's claiming that they have completed it, but there is no screen clip here to prove what your current slide looks like. Like this is putting a check, but it's not actually getting credit because this is incomplete. And looking further down, there's incomplete sentences that are claimed that they are being done. There's no screen clip. It's a sentence, but it's supposed to be a screen clip. I mean, these are things that I'm seeing in a lot of lessons that are very concerning. Here's a screenshot, but in this screenshot over here, it doesn't actually have a slide on repetition. It's a blank slide. So I want you guys just to be aware that when you guys are giving answers, you have to actually answer the question, where if you don't, even if you check it off, you're not going to be getting credits. So if you are watching this and this is you, where you're confused, or perhaps your vocab list at the bottom doesn't quite make sense, or you put "I'm not sure" in your answer, then I want you guys to use this as a guide to help you. So I'm going to be going over an example right now of what a lesson could look like when it is complete. So over here for question 2, you might be able to unmove a file in PowerPoint in OneDrive because the file might be open in another window. Ugh, I cannot even talk this morning. Over here, we scroll down. This is where the slide was created. Here's an example of a slide on proximity. It's not complete yet, but it's the progress of where the student was at. You keep scrolling down over here. Another slide's about to be created. Here's that slide on alignment. Even though this slide doesn't show alignment yet, it's at least a first version of it. Then repetition, learn about repetition. You're going to create a PowerPoint slide on repetition, paste that in there. Then 14, you'll just look through the diagram. Then 15, 16, over here, 17, learning, 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 18, an answer. What hue combinations stand out? The student said red and white over here. It says great, it also stands out. Option A has better contrast because, explaining why what you've learned up above is going on. 20, another PowerPoint slide creation, where in 21 you put the slide in contrast. Now over here, the student's using alignment that they've learned, but they didn't actually use too much contrast. They just kept the same color scheme. So eventually you're going to want to put the colors in, but it's a great first copy of it. You don't have to be done by this step. And then over here, some reading, an answer based on that reading, that you shouldn't put too much information on your slide because if they could just read it, why present it? And then finally creating your title slide, video information, and then the final step is to finish the vocab list and finish the PowerPoint. Now when you get to this step over here, you can check the box once you finish the vocab list, which could look something like this. But the point is, you still have to finish the PowerPoint even after finishing the lesson. So just because you finished the lesson doesn't mean your PowerPoint's done. This is just my way to kind of see where you guys were at with the snips. As for the vocab list, I'm going to go through this right now to help you guys out. So PowerPoints is all about creating a presentation. You can kind of pause this video, read through what the student had to say of how they learned from the different topics over here. Let's make it a little smaller. You can see that they included screen clippings to help them understand what everything is about. Contrast is blending colors, Control-Shift-T, reopening a window. Value, it's all about lightness and darkness. Intensity, it's about brightness and dullness. Repetition is about using repetition to get your point across to people and using repetition to make the presentation flow. Alignment is something to make a PowerPoint nice and crisp and clean and professional. And PowerPoint is all about using bolder and larger fonts over here. You can read through how this student, by pausing the video, explained what they can use this concept to do, but this should be on your own. But you can still pause this and use this if you're struggling to do so. So one thing that I want to showcase over here is this student over here wrote most of their answers, and that's really great. But you don't necessarily have to write your answers. Like this student over here put in PowerPoint slides as an example to showcase what is repetition. All I care about is that in your vocab list, you are explaining the concept. That way you can go back to it so you can check your notes. So if you put in over here like a picture to get your answer, it's going to kind of portray the message maybe even better than text. So like absolutely use pictures in your vocab. Like this will still get full credit even though there's nothing written. Over here, full credit, full credit. Just a screenshot again, but full credit. Use these screenshots to your advantage when doing your lesson. All right, so that's kind of like a quick walkthrough of what the lesson should look like. Make sure that if you don't have a example, you don't have things checked off. And now for the rest of the video, what I want to do is I want to kind of give you guys a little showcase of PowerPoint and what your slides might look like when you finish the lesson, and then where you're going to go from there. So this slide in proximity over here started off in the demo that I was showing before, but there's currently no alignment over here for the word proximity. So even though you're done with the lesson, you're still going to have to modify the slide to showcase all 4 elements of CRAP. So in this case, what needs to be changed to the slide on proximity is we're going to have to create this alignment. So over here is a very simple version of creating that alignment. We're also going to want to use contrast, where if there's a certain word that you want to stand out, perhaps it's just the title slide over here, you make that stand out. I'm going to go over to design over here, and I'm just going to do a very simple slide where I'm going to do a gradient fill over here, and I'm just going to do a preset gradients, maybe something in green over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to then change my fonts from black to perhaps let's do maybe a nice bright yellow. Let's see how that looks. And then over here, from black over here, I think it still stands out. Maybe we just make it a little bit bigger. So maybe I change the font over here to 36. So by creating this slide over here, what I've done is I have alignment by creating that nice line. I have proximity, where if this was in full screen, everything would be able to be viewed. The way that you can test the proximity is by simply looking on the little slide over here. I mean, some of these words might be a little hard for someone to view in the back of the room, so maybe I make this even a little bigger by making that 40, but I also make this one bigger by making this 110 so that this still stands out more. And if there's more that you want to highlight or capitalize on, then please continue adding to a slide. But you don't necessarily have to do more. You just have to show the bare minimum. I'm also just going to showcase right here to make a couple of things pop a little more to show better contrast. I'm going to just create a black outline next to that yellow to kind of show a little bit of repetition. This is black, this is black. And I can also, if I wanted to, I could insert a shape, maybe something like this shape over here. I can insert this, and I would align it to the words over here, and then I could right-click and send this to back. That way, the proximity over here really kind of pops against the backgrounds. So again, this is not necessarily what your slide has to look like. In fact, I don't want your slide to look like this. But what I'm trying to get you guys to see is that when you finish the lesson, you're still going to have modifications to do to make your slide show contrast with color, alignment with how the slide is aligned. You're going to show proximity. So like over here, you'd go over to your slide on alignment, and you'd have to right-click and duplicate this slide. And then you'd start changing the words, redo alignment, and you're going to then change the words over here about what alignment's about. So we're going to take these words, we're going to copy them, we're going to go over here, we're going to paste them. So like you're changing the slides so that the 2 slides over here have repetition, so that they are nice and clean. You probably also would want to think about your contrast over here, where if this black was too hard to see, then maybe instead you decided to choose white, or maybe you even chose yellow, the same color over here. But because yellow over here now, like nothing stands out because everything's yellow, maybe we decide to do a darker yellow. So if I go to more colors over here, I'm going to turn down the brightness of this. And maybe, I think that's a little too dark over here, but perhaps like by turning that yellow down, you can still make the title stand out. So instead of turning up the contrast, maybe you turn down the contrast of something else. And as long as you can read every word over here, which in my case, like kind of right there, I can't read every word. So maybe, you know, I go over here instead of white, maybe I choose kind of like a little gray or something. And I'm not actually liking the fact that the letter over here of alignment is not aligned with the letters over there. So maybe what I do is I insert another shape over here, and I create this shape over here, and I'm going to line those up so that's nicely aligned. And then I'm going to, again, send this to back, and I'm going to then take all of this font over here. I'm going to place it in the box, and then perhaps I also drag this over so that those letters A's are aligned. And maybe I like this more. Obviously, I'm going to have to drag the text box to make sure that everything fits in there, and then it's kind of like it goes off the box, so I have to drag this down a little more. But the goal is to, you know, create some sort of design that is pleasing to the eye in terms of the color, the contrast, make it big enough so that everyone can view it, so that there's this nice alignment along the edges where you see these crisp lines. You can even see the alignment along the words over there, and also to create, you know, repetition where every single slide, then if I were to duplicate this, then my slide on repetition, I'd write the word repetition, and then I take the words over here for repetition, and then I would modify it so that it looks the same from all of my slides. So repetition over here, I have to make sure that this doesn't say about alignment, so I copy this, then over here I'm going to make the same color. So you can kind of see that from slide to slide there's this nice flow because the words are in the same spots, and maybe it should show over here your, let's say, your proximity. You have to put something else. Maybe you even want to put a picture. I mean, point being, I am not telling you what a good slide should look like, but by the end, your slides shouldn't look simply like what they look like at the end of the lesson. You should take what you've learned about color, about alignment, about repetition, and about contrast, and you should make slides pop more. And I'm going to be putting out some videos that showcase more specific techniques, and I want you guys to go watch those videos to help you figure out all of these concepts. So that is your tutorial on what we are doing for this lesson. Hopefully this helps, and if you have further questions, please let me know. Have a good one, guys.